how we were talking about sin earlier. Most of us also don't realise that we love the sin of others as well, besides our own. Because the sins of others feed our own sins. So we have a tendency of loving the sins of others, and then when somebody is actually loving to us, we don't love them at all. You know, the whole idea that you love somebody's imperfections. They really love me, they love my imperfections. From God's perspective, loving someone's sin is actually a sin. All right, well, when we do this, Mary and I normally just get stuck into it, so without too much of preamble. And sometimes Mary will maybe provide an explanation who's come along, and sometimes we just get straight into it and it becomes plain through the interaction.
Let's do the last explanation.
Yes.
Hello, and thanks for having us. And we're quite attracted to what we've been speaking about.
Yeah.
We're a large group here. And I've been selected to be the spokesperson, and I don't feel very confident about that.
What's your name?
Heron.
Heron.
And we'd like to know more about the quality of humility.
Yep. What draws you to know more about it?
We feel quite stuck where we are.
Yep. Where is that?
We know where we are, it's not good.
Yep.
And we all seem to be in a similar situation where where we are is not good, it's not pleasant. And we can see that there's things that we should, things that didn't go perhaps right on Earth.
Yep.
But we feel quite frightened often of how to understand what went wrong.
Yeah.
And we feel quite frightened about this way that you're talking about.
Yeah. If you feel about why you feel frightened about where you are and what went wrong, what's happened to cause you to feel so frightened.
Well, look, we don't feel frightened about. We feel frightened about changing.
Yeah.
We don't feel frightened about what happened on. We don't think. We don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just feel change is required, but we don't really feel like we understand how to change, and when we consider change, we feel frightened.
Yeah. What's brought you to the position where you believe change is required?
Well, a long time in a bad situation.
Yeah.
A long time justifying our life.
Yeah.
Feeling that our life was quite legitimate.
Yeah, good. Like
Yeah.
average.
average, reasonable.
Yeah.
I was a farmer. I don't think I farmed well.
Yeah.
I don't think I did anything extraordinary.
Yeah.
Really good or bad.
Yeah.
But when I passed, I was 70 something when I passed. It was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
A couple hundred years ago now.
Yeah.
And I passed.
And you were a farmer where, what country were you in?
Yeah, in this region.
In Ireland?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And now, life is not good.
Yeah.
And we.
So you're not happy with your life now?
No.
No.
No, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Not free.
Yeah.
Not in the life.
Yeah.
Not in the life we thought we'd be in.
Yeah. Did you think you would be in the light? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not in a grand way.
Did you grow up religious?
Yep.
Yep. And the religion was
Catholic.
Catholic religious faith?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd be in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know that we need to do things differently, and we don't like what you're saying, but we realise we might have to consider it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you like to know in particular?
Well, how to find sin,
Yeah.
and then obviously from what you've been saying, we have to feel sin.
Yeah.
Or, feel something. We don't know what we have to do.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. The best course of action is firstly how to find sin. Right. So before we can become aware and awaken to our sin, we need to be able to know what the sin was. Obviously, otherwise there's nothing to awaken to. So it's important to find the sin, and the simplest way to find the sin is to ask God what the sin was. Right?
Yeah.
So, and with sins, there's sort of like a priority system, you could say, where God will, and the priority system isn't necessarily the biggest thing, but it is the biggest thing that's affecting you right now. So,
Okay.
so what God would like to share with you firstly is the sins that are affecting you right now, and so that changes can be made. And the way that you ask God about that is all you need to do is ask God for the feeling of the sin. And if you're emotionally open, God will give you the feeling of the sin. And that way you'll be able to recognise it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Something we're suffering with those feelings. We don't really understand what that even is.
Yeah, you don't really want feelings.
We don't really
Have them.
have them. No.
Mm.
We don't really. Yeah, we don't have them.
Yeah, and this is actually the first thing we need to address first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the human soul is being designed to have feelings. And if you don't have feelings, then you lack sensitivity to everything else. So it's hard to receive truth if you don't have feelings. It's hard to progress if you don't have feelings. It's hard to change your sin if you don't have feelings.
Yeah.
So it's very important to have feelings, right? So what we need to do is discuss first, why don't you have feelings? Like, what happened in your earth life to cause you to feel that feelings weren't necessarily a good thing? Particularly bad feelings weren't a good thing to feel. So you describe a bit more about your earth life, how you were brought up by your mum and dad.
Well, I guess you just lived. You didn't have you just lived. You did work.
Yeah. So I'm talking more though about your childhood. How did your mum and dad, like, what did they teach you to do, or how did they treat you?
Well, they taught me to work.
Yeah. So you worked hard from a young age. As soon as you were able to work, you worked.
Yep. Everyone in the family.
Yeah. And if you had any feelings in terms of, like, you felt sad or you felt, happy about things, how did they feel? Like, what did mum and dad feel when you felt those things?
Not interested.
Yeah.
I suppose cold.
Yeah.
Judging.
Judgmental and cold. Yeah. Yeah.
Not sort of quietly.
Yeah. Yeah, not overtly like belting you about it or anything, but just
maybe sometimes.
Yeah. But for the most part, just.
But not about feelings, just about things I did wrong.
Yeah, but not about having feelings. Yeah.
It's hard to remember.
Yes.
It's hard to remember.
Yeah. And this is important too, to exercise the memory.
Right.
About earth life, because a lot of our problems in the spirit life begin in the earth life. So where you are right now is because of what happened in earth life. And one of the things that has happened to you in earth life is that your childhood has caused you to be desensitized to emotion. And that then makes it more difficult for you to know how to sin.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It makes sense.
And then if you can't know how to sin, then you can't awaken to that sin, and you can't talk about that sin with God because you don't know how you sinned, because you're desensitized to how you sinned. Makes sense? Yeah.
It makes sense.
So the important thing to do is to firstly go, okay, I need to look at why I feel so shut down emotionally. What reasons do I have for doing that? So,
and all of us have to do that.
That's right. Yeah. Makes sense? So that's number one. Now, God can even tell you the reasons. So you can actually ask God to tell you the reasons as to why you got shut down emotionally. What God will do is share some pictures with you about your life as to what happened.
Yeah, we've been trying to pray.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work.
No, because there's not a strong feeling for you towards God at this stage. Does that make sense? But if you allow yourself to really feel that you want to know what happened in your life to cause you to be where you are now. Does that make sense? Because you obviously want to change.
Yeah.
And so if you can project to God a feeling of, I want to know what happened to me in my life to cause me to be here in this place I am in the spirit world now. And if you can feel that you want that, then God will respond to that through what's called conscience and let you know.
Okay.
So try that as an experiment first. Now, can you feel straight away that some of you don't want to know?
Yeah.
Because you're scared.
Yeah.
So you're scared that God's going to show you a whole heap of bad things or remind you of a whole heap of bad things. And then you're scared what God's going to do about that too. Can you see that?
Yeah.
You're worried that because of what you were taught in your earth life about Christianity, you're worried that means that as soon as you acknowledge it, you'll be in hell, right? And you know at the moment you're not in the burning fire of hell. You know that, don't you? But you're worried about what happens when you acknowledge things. Where do you go then? Yeah. But I'd like to reassure you that when you acknowledge things, you go to a better condition, not a worse one. God wants you to acknowledge things, you see. Yeah. You used to develop that feeling that you want to know why, just for the sake of knowing, at this stage.
Yeah, I got something.
Yeah, what did you get?
When I was small,
yeah.
I was playing with my sister.
Yeah.
And we had some kind of sexual play.
Yeah.
And we were found.
Yeah.
And I was beaten.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to
that's something that God shared with you to remind you about one reason why you shut down emotionally.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep asking them for some more.
Yeah, I was playing once.
Yeah.
In the field.
Yeah.
And my father's my father, and he also scolded me.
Yeah.
For being
frivolous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just things like that, I guess.
Things like that. Yeah. So those kind of events cause you to shut down your feelings.
Yeah, and I should just be in my body working.
Yeah, yeah. So he didn't really want you to have feelings. And your parents didn't really want you to have feelings, because if you had feelings, your mind would stop working.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
And yeah, just annoyed them.
Yeah, yeah.
There was
survival, get on with life. Yeah. Just do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so by shutting down feelings, what that does is it stops us being inquisitive anymore. It stops us having curiosity anymore. And one reason why you've been in the place where you are now in the spirit world for such a long time is because on earth, your parents sort of shut down your feelings and your curiosity so much that now you haven't hardly been curious about where you've been for the last 100 or 200 years,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're just sort of thinking, I'm here and I've just got to put up with it. I'm here and it's just going to be where I am.
Monotony.
Yeah. And you also have been worried that if you do find out where you are, that it might end up you being in a worse place. So you're also worried that to sort of speak up and ask somebody to help you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because every time you ask something of your mum and dad, they either didn't care or they responded badly to you asking. Yeah? Yeah. So because of these things, you then are in this sort of state now where if I don't express any curiosity and I keep myself shut down, I don't ask about things, then I'll be safe. I'll be safe from anybody attacking me and anybody harming me. It will help me be safe. But the problem with that is the spirit world life and progress in it is all about curiosity, desiring to know things.
Right.
Yeah. So now we've talked about that a little. Is this something you'd like to know about the spirit life? If you think about it, what would you guys like to know?
We want to know how to know about sin. How do we? Because we heard what you said that we have to know about sin
to change.
To change.
Yeah. Okay. So let's first ask God now, what is the main sin I have that's stopping me from changing right now?
No, well, not feeling. Is that too simple an answer?
No, it's not. It's exactly the sin.
Right.
So you see, there wasn't a lot you did wrong in your life.
But there must be.
Well, no. What's happened is you've shut down your emotions so much that you haven't even been curious enough to know how to make any change. Right? And that particular lack of curiosity means there's no desire in you to change. And so there's no desire to ask any questions.
Yeah, I find it hard to ask questions. Yeah.
Now, the reason why not connecting to your emotions is a sin is because God designed the soul to be emotional. So he designed you to be an emotional person. And so whenever we choose to shut down our feelings and our emotions, we're actually trying to work against the design. And remember, the design is God's version of love. And so whenever we're working against the design, we're actually sinning against God's version of love. In this case, the love of selfishness. Love of acknowledging your own feelings.
Okay.
Makes sense? So the very first thing God wants you to deal with is acknowledging and learning to have your own feelings.
How do I do that?
Okay, well let's, I've described that to some people here on earth. One part is to become educated about what emotions a human may have and then what those emotions feel like. So, if you look back at when you were scolded by your parents for the sexual pain,
yeah.
Can you feel the emotion you felt then? What was the feeling you had?
Fear, shame, fear.
So you had fear, firstly, because of the belting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You got belting for it. So there was fear. And then there was you were made to feel sexually ashamed, weren't you?
Yeah.
Right, so they were two emotions that you could have felt in the moment, but your mum and father didn't want you to feel them. And so what happens is you store them rather than feeling them. So you sort of push them down inside of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what fear feels like, and you know what shame feels like.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
But what about happiness? Do you know what that feels like? Is there a time in your childhood where you actually felt happy? That time when you were frivolous with your dad, just before he told you off, did you feel happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did.
Okay, so let yourself feel what that felt like, being happy. Can you see you also now feel a bit sad?
Yeah.
Because you haven't had that feeling for such a long time, right? Yeah. So now you're also feeling sad about not having had happiness for such a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And the key is just to let yourself feel that sadness. But also you can remember feelings that you had in your childhood. Now we've only described a few, but there's other feelings. Like there are times when your dad scolded you when you were happy. He was condescending to you, right? And he was ridiculing you in that process of scolding you, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was making fun of you, but also telling you off at the same time.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like to be ridiculed? Can you feel that feeling?
Wonderful.
Yeah. You feel like your worth is being, like you've been made to feel like you're worthless in that moment. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it feels like. And what God would like.
Well, I don't like it. So that's the problem we have. That's why we came, because
Correct.
we don't like this. Why don't we like it?
Yeah.
And how do we like it?
Well, I've described some feelings that are you classify them as bad feelings.
All feelings feel bad.
But all feelings aren't bad because remember you had the happy feeling.
Yeah, but it feels bad when I had it.
That's because you were punished afterwards for having it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the happy feeling itself wasn't bad, was it?
It made me feel sad.
Only because you were ridiculed afterwards.
Yeah, but I don't want to have any of the feelings. Like, how do we want the feelings? I don't want the feelings. They all feel bad.
Well, the problem you have is you don't want the bad feelings.
But all feelings feel bad.
Well, not all. Can I share another feeling with you?
Yeah.
But ask God to share God's love with you. It can just ask the same thing is it has to come from your feelings. That you would like God to you'd like to feel the feeling of love from God. So ask God to do that.
It's really bad. Very bad.
But what did you feel just before you felt that?
It's hard. It's just so sad.
How about we ask God what God feels about you as a person? Does he like you, your personality?
Yes, but I don't know why. There is no personality.
Well, there is, but you've suppressed it so much by not having feelings. So the problem with feeling, when you start feeling, is, as you've now seen, once you've stored feelings for such a long time like you have, the first feelings you start feeling mostly are sort of sad, and shame, other feelings like that, you know, fear, and feelings like that that are quite hard to feel, aren't they? Because you've been suppressed from them for so long.
Yeah. And I mean, we've had this question all the time.
Yeah.
And we heard you say we need to feel.
Yeah.
And we know that we don't really feel
Too
like
much.
we know.
Yeah.
How we feel most of the time.
Yeah.
Or all of the time.
Yeah.
But also, then now we heard you say we have to really want to feel, and we don't.
No.
So how do we get to a place where we want to feel?
Well, how long do you want to stay where you are? Because where you are is because you don't want to feel. You know, the location where you are is happening. You're there because you don't want to feel. So do you want to stay there another 100 years? Or?
No.
No. So how much though do you not want to stay there is really the question.
Yeah. When we think about feeling, some of us just want to stay here.
Yeah. And that's the problem, you see.
Yeah.
You're so against having your feelings that you're prepared to stay in your current location rather than be in a better location. That makes sense to you?
We don't think it could be better because the feelings feel so bad. So how could, even if we're in a nice place, if we feel so bad, it won't be nice.
Remember when God gave you a bit of that love and you felt bad? You notice you didn't let yourself cry.
No.
You just felt bad, didn't you? But you didn't let yourself have your tears.
No.
Right? And this is something that all of you are men, yes?
Yeah.
And this is something you as men were taught, wasn't it? That tears are like weak and pointless. Right?
Yeah.
And so because of that teaching that you received in your childhood, you've not allowed yourself to cry even when you feel sad. Right? But if you let yourself cry when you feel sad, you will release the sadness. And afterwards you will feel happier. But because you've never done it, you don't believe me. You follow me?
Yeah.
So why don't we just see how we go doing that? Like, so let some extra of God's love come. Ask God for some more love. And that will trigger some sadness. And just let yourself cry.
It's hard to want the love now.
Yes. Yeah. Remember that after the crying, you'll feel better. So, and if you can just trust me for a moment on that, then you might let yourself cry.
Yeah. Okay. Some of us are crying.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah? Why do you hate it? There's a feelings in it, isn't there? What?
I feel shame.
Yeah.
I feel revolting about myself.
When you cry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusted with myself.
Yeah. So obviously somebody in your childhood made you feel ashamed of yourself when you cried.
I don't know.
Let that feeling come through. Let it come through. Let it come through long enough for you to feel like it's almost over. I'll give you a moment to do that. Time's not the same here as there, as I say. I'll just give you a moment. How do you feel? A bit calmer? Yeah? Now have a look at your surroundings.
Yeah.
It's a bit better, huh? A bit more light. Good.
It's gonna be hard. It's
Yeah.
like pulling teeth.
Correct. That's why it is so hard when you shut down emotionally. It's so hard to open it up again. Yeah? Because you're not used to it, you're not used to feeling emotion. And so, because you were taught not to feel emotion at such a young age, it's going to be quite hard to go through the process of opening up emotionally first. You see?
Yeah.
But this is the main thing God has shared with you, that this is the reason why you are where you are. So it's something that's necessary, something to be done, something that needs to be done. You follow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's feeling better. It's feeling better.
Yeah. And can you feel a bit more convinced that what needs to be done?
Yeah.
Given that experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a little bit more like, it might work.
It is like just letting it wash
over you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through. Yeah.
Like having a shower or, having a swim in the lake, the water just all the way over you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Letting yourself swim in it.
It's still so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just revolting.
Yeah, but initially it's going to feel that way.
It's just waves of revolting, I feel.
Yeah.
Just waves of disgust.
Yeah. Just keep letting it flow. As the more you can let it flow, the faster the change happens. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is not loving it. We're not loving it.
Well, what will happen after a little bit of time is you'll love the results of it first. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So you know how you already can see a bit more light in your environment.
Yeah.
You can see that after a while, the light in the environment is going to go, oh, I get lighter every time I do this. So after a while, you start loving the result first.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as are able to deal with more and more emotion, you find yourself, I love the emotion, not only because of the result, because now I can feel other things, good things like happiness and joy. You know?
Yeah.
Can you feel your feeling about the new, in the better environment even? Can you feel that feeling? It's like you have a bit of hope now. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
And you didn't have that before.
It feels like some kind of warmth, I suppose.
Yeah, and it is warmer, isn't it? The environment is even warmer, not so cold as before. So when we shut down our emotions, the environment in the spirit world matches our own coldness towards emotions. So the environment often gets cold, and if you'd really shut down your emotions a huge amount, you would have been sort of living encased in ice. Right? It hasn't been that bad, has it? But where you've been has been quite cold.
Yeah.
And it's felt cold all the time.
Yeah.
But now that you've made a little bit of progress, can you see it feels a bit warmer to your skin and everything? It feels warmer.
Yeah.
So there's another result. There's a good result. Can you see?
Yeah.
And as you do more of the bad feelings, you'll find there'll be good results. And the more you feel the good results, the more motivation you'll have to feel the bad feelings. And then eventually what happens is some good feelings start coming. Mm. And they'll surprise you sometimes. You know? And the key is to be as sensitive as you can to the good feelings as you have been to the bad ones. So when you have happiness, or some level of happiness, or some hope, let yourself feel that hope that you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So every time you feel a bad feeling, there'll be a change in your environment.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we don't have to, what do we do if we get, like we can't feel again? Like
Well, it's very hard to go back to not feeling again when you've already started the process of feeling. However,
haven't we started the process?
yeah, you already have. You've just had some feelings. Is that?
Yeah.
Yep. But there are going to be some feelings in the future that you feel, oh, that's really bad, and I'd rather not feel that at all. And then you've got to work through why you don't want to feel that at all.
What's that like?
Well, it's like where you've been. It's exactly the same. If you'll find you'll progress to that point, and then you go, oh, I've got to deal with this thing, this feeling that I have, and you might feel a little bit like you don't want it. Right?
How do we want something we don't want?
Just by doing what we just said and done. Remember, you didn't want feelings before our conversation started.
Yeah.
And now you feel a little bit of hope about if you feel feelings, things will work better. You see the difference? So when you reach another block in your progress, you're going to just have to go through the same thing. Like ask God, what is the feelings that I'm avoiding? Right? Let God show you some images of your life about, where they came from. And then allow yourself to feel what happened in that situation. Make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So it's exactly the same procedure when you come to another blockage of your feelings.
And is there other things that we need to understand?
Not really, because you think about God will share the truth with you when you ask for it. And God will share his love with you when you ask for it.
Okay.
And if you just want the truth and you want that love and you're willing to go through your feelings, then you'll naturally make some progress and change will occur.
Okay.
Makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can do that.
And if you allow that process to continue, then the progress will continue. It will just keep going and going and going. And because God is infinite, the progress can also be infinite. And so that means, where you are now has been cold, where you have been has been a cold place. You've got a little bit warmer now, right? But if you feel some more emotions, it will be warmer again and prettier environment again and so forth. And so there's the rewards, so remember the rewards. But the other reward too, after all, is you'll start feeling some good feelings. And you need to trust that there will be some good feelings in your future. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is bring some fellas to you who've been through the same thing you have. So they can help you to do this when you get stuck.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you feel them now, you can see them, right? Yeah, I've been waiting for you actually to make some change with your feelings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they look like good friends, yes. Good,
Yeah,
good
they
people.
seem kind.
Kind, yeah.
People.
And yet they were in the same place you were before.
Wow.
Yeah. And look, and see how happy they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look so different.
They look pretty different,
Well, just more relaxed.
Yeah, calm and peaceful and happy. Let them give you a picture of where they live now, because this will help you.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, let them give you a picture of where they were when they started.
Yeah, but like us.
Like you, right? Yeah, so same position you're in now, look at where they are now. So it also can give you some hope that if somebody else can do it, then you should be able to do it too.
Yeah. I don't feel like it yet.
No. And it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because you've been so used to being shut down.
And do we have to know why we were shut down? Or do we just have to, how does that work? Like
Well,
you
you
got
remember-
us to see how we were shut down.
That's right.
But then when I was crying, I wasn't feeling about being shut down. I was just feeling.
Well, you received some of God's love and that triggered some feelings, and I said for you to let yourself have those feelings.
Yes.
Does
So
that make
that's
sense?
just having feelings.
That's right. But if you think about it, you might not have even tried to receive God's love if you couldn't have seen where you were shut down.
So we have to know how we were shut down. We have to know more about how we were shut down.
You don't
before we
have to know more.
What
you
do we
just-
have to do now?
You just need to let yourself feel the truth of what happened to your life, in your life.
Just any
So you
time
ask
now.
God, tell me the truth of what happened in my childhood to cause me to be where I am now.
And is it all from my childhood then?
Well, not necessarily, no, because a lot of the things that people feel are to do with shame they have or guilt they have related to the things they did wrong. So you're going to have some of those feelings too.
But
So it's
we
not
don't
just about
understand.
childhood,
Yeah, we
but
don't-
it's also about things you chose to do, breaking God's law as well. Because God has laws, and when you break them, there's a penalty for breaking those laws.
Yeah, we realised we must have broken law
Well,
because
the biggest law you broke was the law regarding emotion. And you didn't realise it,
no,
but that was a big law you were breaking. That caused you to stay where you were for 200 years or more.
and
Right?
obviously if we,
But God showed you that.
yeah, but if we came here, then obviously from what you said, we did badness in our life on earth.
No, see, now you're worried about what God's going to show you in the future. But one of the biggest things God's showing you is you didn't do a lot wrong except shutting down yourself emotionally. That's the first thing that was wrong.
Okay.
Now, for other people who are in darker places than you've been, the first thing wouldn't have been that. It would have been other things that they've done wrong. Does that make sense?
So this terrible shame that
That
well,
feeling.
that many of us have,
That's
many
right.
of us feel like it's agony to cry.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
like terrible agony.
That's
Terrible shame.
That's the thing that's been keeping you all locked up with your feelings.
So we don't really have to know why we have that, we just have to have that.
It'll become clear to you while you feel your feelings. Does that make sense to you? Like, the reason why it becomes clear while you're feeling or after you feel feelings is because it's the feelings, the suppression of the feelings themselves also suppress the memories.
Okay.
So you can't remember things you're trying to not feel about. You can only remember them if you allow yourself to feel.
Okay. Yeah. So
Let's deal with the confusion. That's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have
What
to.
are you worried about now?
We're worried about feeling and how to best do feeling. How to best find feelings we have to feel. We
Just-
don't know the feelings.
Just like what I've already shown you. You don't have to do anything more than that.
Just ask God
Ask
a
God,
question.
and when you're
Any
sincere,
question.
any question, ask God, and when you're sincere, you'll get that answer. And if you ask for God's love, feelings will be triggered.
And what if we can't get an answer from God?
That means you don't want one yet.
Yeah.
So then you can ask, why don't I want one yet?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want a feeling. Like obviously, if we're asking God and God can't give us an answer, it means we don't want the answer yet. And then we go, well, why don't I want the answer? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And at least ask that question and want to know what's going on. Why don't I want the answer? And God can answer that question. Yeah, this is a part of developing some curiosity for your life. Like, why is this happening to me? Type thing.
Yeah. And if we don't have much curiosity, we just have to keep sort of remembering that curiosity will help.
Why? Ask why. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? What's going on here?
Yeah, that's the curiosity.
That's the curiosity.
And so if we find ourselves not curious, then we just have to say, oh, we have to remember to ask why.
And there's probably going to be a fear associated with why you're not curious. So one of your fears is, what's going to happen? Is God going to punish me for things I find out? That's one of your big fears, right?
Yeah.
No, where you are already is the worst place you're going to be.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same for everybody. When you start this process, the worst place you're going to be, if you do the process properly, the worst place you're going to be is where you are right now. So that's a relief to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you can confirm with God with whether what I said is true or not. Okay? You can take, is what Jesus said true? Ask God, is it true that we're in the worst place we'll ever be?
This is such a relief.
Yeah.
Such
So can you see your beliefs from the Catholic religion and from your childhood have caused you to believe that there might be worse after this? Maybe we're in purgatory, but we're not in hell yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so you were worried that you were sort of like in purgatory.
Yeah.
And this is what purgatory feels like. But you're not in hellfire yet, so that means you weren't in hell yet. And you've been worried about it for such a long time.
Well, we thought we must have done something very wrong.
Yeah. And so,
Well, what if we found out we did something very wrong?
yeah. So that's a relief, isn't it?
So this must be part of why we don't want to fix things.
Correct. You were afraid that you were, that one, and this is an example of a belief system, a spiritual belief system that you had, has caused you to not want to make changes because you're so worried that the changes might result in you being in a worse place. Yeah.
Yeah. And also that my feelings themselves would create a worse place.
Yeah, and a lot of people believe that. A lot of people believe that the feelings are what makes things worse, but actually it's suppressing your feelings makes things worse. You can even check that with God. So ask God, is that true? Suppressing my feelings is worse than feeling them. Is that true?
I thought it was.
Yeah. Not true.
We still feel a kind of disgust about feelings. That's just...
Well, that's where you've been shamed in your childhood about feelings. You know, there's been a lot of pressure on you guys for such a long time to believe, in your childhood, if you think about it, to believe that any feeling is just like, be stoic, be brave, be a man, be stoic, be brave, you show no emotion, that's how you be a man, right? So there's a deep level of shame attached to that from the people who shamed you about that. So there's this feeling in many men that to be an emotional man is like the worst thing. Yeah. And this is why you feel that shame, right? But there's nothing to be ashamed of. That's why God gave men tear ducts just like He gave women, right? So that we can cry. Yeah.
Such a relief.
Yeah. So relief to know, isn't it, too, that you're in the worst place you're going to be.
Yeah.
So that's a relief, isn't it? Yeah.
It almost feels like too good to be true now.
Yeah.
But like, could we deserve this? Because it doesn't feel like you've just been expecting it to get a lot
worse. Yeah. You've been feeling you're in purgatory, as you were taught, and then, I don't know, did you initially feel that somebody, if nobody could pay money to get you out of there, you probably would have also thought that maybe?
No, well, we didn't really think about it. I hadn't thought about it until we had this discussion.
Yeah.
I hadn't.
You think about it though, that's what you were taught, including the fact that people on earth could pay to get you out of there.
Yeah, no one's going to pay you.
No one's going to pay for you because no one got any money, right? That's right. So it wasn't something you thought anybody would do. And this is why you felt so worried that you weren't going to get out of there. There was no way to get out of there. You know what I mean? And if you do get out of there, it's just going to get worse. So you'll have other beliefs, that come from your upbringing, from the Catholic faith as well, that you'll see obviously wrong through the process, which will be good for you too. So every time you come up with something you're afraid of, so in the case of this, you were afraid of making a change because things might get worse.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you're afraid, it means that you just don't have enough truth about it yet.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And you can ask God for truth by just asking God, is that true? Is it true that things are going to get worse? Is what we just asked God, wasn't it? And God shared with quite quickly, didn't he? No? Where you are is the worst it's going to be.
It's also recognizing when we're afraid, realizing when we're afraid.
That's right.
We do.
We didn't know. You didn't know. Yeah. Yeah. But you can see afterwards, see, this is the thing about a feeling. Often you only see it afterwards. That was the feeling. Yeah. That's why the truth exposes your fears, and that's why it's good to ask God through this mechanism of just asking and receiving answers. It's good to ask God these things because the truth exposes the fear, and God feels you're his child. You already felt a bit of that, right? That's what he felt. He wants to share things with you. He wants to share truth with you, right? But you already go, I don't want to know the truth because if I know more truth, then I might end up further, like, in hells, you know?
Yeah.
And there might be a fiery place of torment, like I was taught. You haven't seen it yet, but you thought there might be, didn't you? Yeah. And so it's not, you know, one of these things should say to you too, that this truth should say, maybe the spirit world isn't like the Catholic Church taught me it was.
I haven't thought about the church since I can't remember. I never thought about the church.
That's right, but its teachings are with you, and that's what caused you to not change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't it?
Yeah.
But you can think you didn't even like imbibe the belief, and yet it was there. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're feeling a bit relieved about that truth, aren't you? That's good.
And just in general.
Yeah. Can you feel now you're a bit happy?
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah.
I haven't been happy.
Yeah, the peacefulness of that. You know, it's lovely, isn't it, to have that for the first time for a long time as well. Yeah. And it makes you feel sad. And you just go and let yourself cry about that. You know, that's how it works. And if you're humble to these feelings, like that's what humble is, part of being humble is letting yourself just have these feelings and know what comes at you. And you ask God every time you feel a bit blocked, it'll become very clear. Like, and you'll make rapid progress, right? And these new friends you have, will help you do that too. So whenever you get a bit blocked, if you ask God and you don't get any answers, then you can, well, I don't know what's going on, let's ask my friends, you know? If God can't share with me, then maybe I don't want the answer that much. Maybe my friends can share with me and develop a desire at least to ask them, you know?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Truly, thank you. Everybody is very grateful.
Yeah. How many of you have been there like this?
So many, 100,000 of us here now. Yeah. And there's been various times, hasn't there, that you've passed. Yeah. Some of you older than 200 years or more that you are, and other ones younger. Yeah, some much younger. Yeah, but still with the same problem. Yeah. Thank you so much. Blessings on you. Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. So you know what to do now. Yeah. And you know you got some help. Yeah. So you'll be right now. Yeah. And considering this is the worst it's going to get. Yeah. It can only get better from here. Yeah. Such good news. Yeah. Just such unexpected news. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll see you later. How you doing? Yeah.
Mary's hot now.
Well, I just say, you guys warm it.
Mary sort of feels what they feel, so they were cold and freezing, and so when they came to her, she's cold and freezing. And then, you know, as they get into a warmer place, it's like, now we're getting warm. And that's how it is. Does anyone ask any questions about that before we move on? No? No, you're all good. No.
So I'm wondering, when I told you earlier that I think I have some Irish spirits with me, I wonder if any of those people were the ones that were.
No.
I know that I felt some of that worthlessness that they.
Yeah.
The shame.
Yeah, a lot of times when we do some shouting people around, sort of connect a bit to the emotions of the persons. But a lot of times these people have not come with you, you know, they've been here for other reasons or wanted to talk to Mary and I for a while, or the subject we've been talking about over the weekend has piqued their interest in some way, or they feel it's important to them without knowing why. In the case of this group, they were brought here, but they did feel it was important to them to know, like, what's this about the humility? What does that mean? Yeah. That's what they were told from some spirits who brought them.
Yeah. I was just trying to feel about the Irish spirits with you, but I think there's some like connection to your family and your ancestry and something. Yeah. Something there that it feels more like. Well, they're quite interested in you, but they also sort of feel like, oh, if she just moved to Ireland, everything would be better for her. You know, they kind of want you to have a geographical cure to your issues, and they don't really understand yet that that's not going to work.
Yeah.
The spirits with you. Yeah. They think it was much better in Ireland, so it's like, your life would be happier.
Ireland's warmer than Ireland. Not really true, right? In terms of the atmosphere, emotionally, is what they're feeling.
Yeah, it does feel lighter here.
Emotionally, yeah.
Yeah.
In Ireland, there's less heavy oppression from everybody's activity and everyone, you know, there's a lot more focus on relaxing a bit and enjoying life a bit and all that kind of thing than in parts of the US.
Yeah, and I guess it's you working on your desire to sort of deal with your life back home, you know, and recognizing when they're sort of trying to influence you away from doing it.
Yeah, a lot of spirits do believe that if you change your location, things will get better. Because that's what they try to do. And oftentimes they think they can't do it anymore, but at least they can influence you to do it. You know, because that's what they did on Earth to avoid things.
My cousin that ended her life 15 years ago, she came to me last summer and I asked her, how is it where you are? And she said it's cold. And I didn't even thought, why?
Yeah. Most of the time in the spirit world, if people are in a cold location, it means they're detuned emotionally. So they're cold to emotions. You can get so cold that you can be encased in ice in the spirit world. There's people in the spirit world right now who are like encased in ice, like living in the Arctic inside the ice. Kind of feeling. That's how bad it can get with emotion. People who are so shut down. Very hard to face for those because obviously, you know, they've got to thaw out themselves a bit emotionally, but they're living in this place that causes them to not want to do that. So,
The good thing is that she came to you, you know, that shows that she's sort of, it doesn't feel like she's trying to influence you or live through you, she just came to you. And that's
shared a truth too.
Yeah.
That's very unusual for many spirits when they come to people like that.
I've been praying for her like the time before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why she would come, because of your interest.
So is that also a way to help them, to pray for them?
Yeah, it usually helps people be a bit more sensitive to what's going on in their life, you know.
And you can remind, like when she comes, you can also remind her of her life on earth.
That's a good idea. Yeah, it was very hard for her.
Just remind her that she can deal with her life, where from where she's now, and there's obviously some opening now to do that because your prayers have attracted her to you.
And also because I don't have it so much now anymore, but I had a period where spirits would come to me in my sleep state. I would feel them, and I would tell them, pray to God. But if I don't feel it myself, if I don't believe it myself, am I helping them? No. That's what I found. Yeah.
They can do, they just go, what are you doing fake again with that? You don't even know it yourself. What are you talking about? That's right. Yeah, no, they when you tell them something you do not actually feel or believe yourself, you're actually making their life worse in a way, because what happens then is they know you're being fake about it for a start, and then they go, well, what do I do now? Like, I don't know what to do now. She thinks praying to God works, but she doesn't actually feel praying to God works. So what do I do? You know, thinking praying to God works, it doesn't work for me either. And does God even exist? You know, sometimes is the response to that. But, So be very careful about sort of faking what you believe to other people, but particularly what you believe to the spirits, because obviously a lot of times they come to people on earth looking for a solution because they haven't found one yet in the spirit world, and mostly because they have been uneducated about the spirit world. And so these guys were uneducated about the spirit world, and so what they did is their history of the Catholic faith caused them to believe that they'd arrived. They knew they hadn't arrived in hell. Hell is fiery torment, right? That was the teaching. So they knew they hadn't arrived in hell. So then they go, well, where am I? They are actually in the hells. But because they believed the hells were fiery torment, they thought they hadn't arrived there yet. And so in the Catholic faith, as you might know, there's a teaching of purgatory, which is sort of a mid-state where people go, according to their faith, where people go who haven't gone to heaven, who haven't gone to hell yet. Right? And historically, there was also ideas in the Catholic faith that you can only pay to get out of it, right? Or have a priest pray for you to get out of it. So with these guys, nobody cared for them, so they didn't ever expect a priest to pray for them to get out of it. And also on the other hand, they're afraid there's no people to pay, money to get out of it either. So they're afraid, if I change, am I going to end up in hell? So better to not change, better to just stay afraid.
Yeah, and I think they had the belief that a lot of people have that, if I have my feelings, and because I have a lot of shame as well, it makes it more real, that then it actually is negatively affecting my condition.
Yeah.
It sort of feels like, well, then we will be drawn to a darker place because we're having these feelings that feel very dark and terrible. Don't feel,
Yeah, don't feel. So that had started on earth, don't feel, impressed upon them by their parents, but by this stage they were impressing it upon themselves.
But yeah, when you tell spirits to do something that you don't actually feel, they, they're very aware of what's really going on inside of you, even if they're in a lower state, that you can usually tell that your feelings and your words don't match, they can.
Yeah, so in a place where I have that happen again, there's actually not much I can do, or.
Well, there's things you can share. What you can just say. A more honest thing to do is say, I've been told. I don't necessarily yet believe it myself, but I've been told that, you can ask God for truth, so try that. Or I've been told that you can ask God for love, and try that. Or I've been told that, the reason why people feel cold is because they're afraid of something, afraid of change. What are you afraid of? You don't have to say even that that's what you believe, but if the Spirit's coming to you, there is generally a feeling in the Spirit that you might be able to help them in some way. So you just need to be honest in the help. If you don't believe something, then don't make out you do.
Yeah. Sort of be real.
Yeah.
The realness is what will connect
Yeah.
them. And you can say, if you try it, come back and tell me if it works.
Because that might
you don't have the faith.
Yeah, that might help
you.
Yeah, I was hoping that my cousin, would come here and have been listening in the 6 hours.
Have you been asking her to come?
Actually, no. Yeah.
Yeah, she hasn't come. No. And
Just
because you asked, you might not either.
Right? We'll see in Canada. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Can we go straight back to
It's okay if you can't, but I just wondered, would it be appropriate to check with my husband to see if I did a lot of damage to him?
We generally don't channel individuals in these sessions.
Okay.
We sometimes do them by ourselves, of course, but
it's okay.
No, just tell me the story.
Yeah, he passed a heart attack 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were married for nearly 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
We both did damage. I can see now how much I did to him.
Yeah.
The feeling I immediately had from him before he even told the story is that he doesn't want you to feel so hard on yourself. I don't know that he's really facing everything. So this is why it's tricky to do. This is why I really, I feel that for a medium to do this kind of work with integrity, that the medium has to have a very good knowledge of the spirit world, and there has to be education, which I know we're doing here, about that people are in different locations themselves in the spirit world. Like, for example, if you went to a medium and they just gave you a message from your husband, which is, darling, don't be so hard on yourself. I know it wasn't perfect. I love you, and it's okay. You just need to. You can move on. You don't have to keep.
But he's skipping over heaps of things.
But he's like. Of course, the truth is you shouldn't berate yourself about it. But there's a lot of things that happen between the two of you that you both still need to deal with. So this is why this kind of mediumship is a bit tricky. Because I can tell you how he thinks he's doing.
Which is not the same about how he's actually doing.
Yeah.
So he's not on the divine path. He hasn't been observing what I've been doing. Trying to do.
No. Well, you remember what he was like on Earth? No. What was he like? Be honest.
See, I think I've
romanticised it in your mind since then.
Stubborn.
Since his passing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he controlled.
What was your husband like when he was on Earth?
He was funny and laughing, and he definitely had an alcohol problem.
And what else?
He didn't have a sort of a spiritual bent to be on Earth. He wasn't interested in spirituality.
He'd say he was.
Right.
Well, you're saying he wasn't. But
Well, he wasn't religious.
No. But also he wasn't. He was interested in some concept of an afterlife, but had no definite feeling about what that was. And he wasn't desirous of investigating it either. He was too involved in his earth life and the pleasures of his earth life to investigate that.
Yeah, I think if we were to do it properly, it might take us the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah,
To,
and probably the rest of the afternoon to convince him to do something different. Can you remember what it was like when he had a strong opinion? Yeah. You remember that? Pretty hard to have an argument with him, but and win. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jean? Yeah.
I just two questions, if that's okay. One is, do we draw spirits to us when we're watching Divine Truth? Can we help? Like, can they be assisted by us watching them? And the other is like desensitization and if you, I don't know, just say with violence towards the water perspective, does that impact on the child?
On the child, yeah. What if we answer the first question first? So can you help spirits who are drawn to you when you're watching Divine Truth? It's not really the watching that is going to help the spirit. It's the feelings that you have. Like if you feel like in Nellie's case, she obviously had a feeling for her cousin that drew her. And then, but as you said to Nellie, if you are faking, if you're like, I don't get it, but you listen and it'll help you, that's not going to help, It's
They'll
just
know you're just as uninterested as they are.
Yeah, or blocked, or what have you. Really, when you have faith in something inside of you, a true faith, a loving faith, that's very attractive to spirits and people, actually, and quite inspiring. So it's not sort of just a matter of just speak, if you think about it, just like saying words to spirits in our mind. It's feelings that we have with spirits that have the most impact, which is the same in a relationship if you think about it. I can say all the lovely, lovely things to Jesus.
I love you so much, and I care about you so much, while at the same time you don't really.
Yeah, and if I'm really angry with him, what's he going to feel? Is the anger. Or if sometimes people feel a bit similar to where you feel very guilty about certain things that happen in your relationship when the person was on earth in their past, and then you really want them to hear God's truth. Sometimes it's to alleviate your own guilt, rather than a sincere concern for them and their welfare. So you going through your process of repentance and forgiveness with the person who's passed, whether you need to repent or forgive, and then sometimes it's a mixture if you've had a marriage or something, that's going to have the most impact on them, but still it's going to be up to their free will. It's going to be up to what they want to do. So just like a person on earth, and honouring a spirit's free will is just as important as honouring a person's free will.
And the second question?
It's about violence.
Just like,
Closer on the mic.
Sorry, just desensitized. I can pronounce the word now, but when the child is not true, like
So the child was miscarried, or the child was in the,
or like,
is it about a spirit, or is it just about a human relationship?
well, no, actually, when I say this word, my sister, I never met her, and my mum felt really guilty all my life because she always played with dad, with my dad, and the baby was born, and 3 weeks later, she always regretted. In those days, they took the baby to Dublin Hospital, and she wasn't allowed to go. She always regretted.
I actually feel your mum is still feeling that now, and that's what you're feeling.
Yeah, and she hasn't dealt with it actually.
No, if she can just feel it and stop sort of impressing it on you.
It would help her a lot. But you like sharing your mum's feelings, which actually doesn't help her to feel her own feelings.
Yeah. She would share her feelings with all her children.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would have had them while you were growing up too, of course, and that is an automatic sharing of those feelings. But her passing also, what happens a lot of times if a person on earth passes with a lot of quite unresolved feelings. In this case, it sort of feels like, did Dad punch her a bit and beat her?
I
Never touched her?
I never
Saw it?
saw it.
Yeah, but I have a feeling he did.
She would blame it because then my sister would have had kind of spite a bit to that and a hole in the back of her spine. And Mum explained to me that for
Which is not how spinal bifida develops.
No.
It's more.
It's more actually linked to the emotion you're sharing with your mother.
The guilt and all those things that she was already carrying.
Yeah.
But the feeling I had from her just now when you were speaking is that she just feels terribly responsible. Yeah.
And this is the reason why she blamed Dad as well, because she didn't want to feel responsible, so she wanted to blame someone else rather than feel responsible herself. Yeah.
But also for you and her, the big thing is that you disconnect emotionally. You know, she needs to deal with what's happened, and you need to feel like it's not your responsibility to carry Mum's feelings anymore.
She wants you to continue though.
Yeah.
She feels like, but my daughter, I don't want to separate from my daughter and go through this alone. You know, it shouldn't be something I have to cope with alone. It should, you know, my family should be able to help me go through it. She really wants to share her emotions with you. And she thinks that by sharing them, it will sort of be halved. You know, like this whole concept, an emotion, you know, shared is an emotion halved sort of thing. And she's got that feeling that the more people she can share it with, the less she'll feel it. And actually what she's doing by sharing it with all these different people is breaking more of God's laws. And so unfortunately what's going to happen is that she's going to feel it more, not less. Yeah. So she's in this sort of frenzy at the moment.
It's actually quite selfish of her because she'd prefer that you feel her feelings than have your own feelings.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
And you're thinking out of compassion for your mum, that makes all sense, but this is not compassion. This is not love for your mum. I know it's what the world believes is loving, but actually it doesn't help your mum. The mum needs to become fully self-responsible to feel her own feelings without sharing it with her children. What she's doing is unloving towards all of her children.
With my sister that had passed away.
Can we just closer to the mic?
My sister that passed away, she okay?
Yeah, she's fine. Yeah. Mum hasn't seen her though.
but that's kind of Mum's question too. And this is the, she really wants her feelings to be alleviated, either through you having them or someone else.
And also by the child being good. And then she doesn't have to worry that she did the wrong thing. Yeah.
We can try and help all these people, but it's not this moment.
Yeah. Even just talking about it, like we have those
It's helped. Yeah, and you can just go.
Yeah.
So, just like the spirits that you were channeling, I was feeling very cold.
Yeah.
I'm still feeling very cold, especially in my legs.
Yeah.
And very shaky and tense a lot of today.
Yeah.
And I've been doing my best to open up to my emotions.
Yeah, as we talked about yesterday, wasn't it?
And I'm spending time doing that.
Yeah. But you're very frightened. Similar level of fear to these guys.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering, is there a spirit effect on me in that regard, or is it just my own fear?
Well, it's more, you are attracting to spirits who have the same level of fear, but it's not like an overcloaking you're quite aware. When you were in your denial of it, when you were doing drugs and other things like that, that was when you were having more severe influences upon you. Now that you've had this sort of feeling of, I want to become aware, I want to wake up to my problems. Since you've had that feeling, a lot of spirits, once you have that feeling, go away. You know, when that feeling is sincere, they just sort of leave because they don't want some moral proof
That's me.
Which is how they sort of see you afterwards. It's sort of like, while you were on drugs, let's go for that. But when you become this moral prude that now, I'm not going to do that anymore, they go, we're not going to get in front anymore, let's go on. So they're off, And so the only spirits that are around you at this time are more spirits that are in commiseration with you having to feel your feelings. In other words, they agree you shouldn't have to, and are just as frightened as you are about feeling them. So, but they're not malicious. They're not trying to have power over you, or they just have this feeling like you have, and therefore feel a depth of camaraderie with you.
And so the physical pain that ramps up is just me clutching the feelings down more?
Yeah. You'll find with fear, the more you avoid it, the more you'll get pains in your legs, generally firstly, and then the pain will rise up in your body. If you keep on avoiding, keep suppressing, it'll eventually go through all your bowel and your stomach and in the solar plexus and everything. And if you allow it to get hold of you, it can change the way you speak and your heart opening to love and all sorts of things afterwards. So yeah, there's a lot of physical things that happen when a person is in quite deep fear about emotion in particular.
Should I just ignore that pain and just go for emotion?
Never ignore your pain.
So feel it completely and try to break it.
You don't want to suppress your pain. Don't take drugs to suppress your pain, whether they're medical or self-administered plant medicine, as people call it. Don't do any of that to suppress your pain, because if you suppress your pain physically on top of suppressing your pain emotionally, you are going to get a disease, guaranteed. That will kill you in the end, right? So you want to make sure that you stay open to your pain emotionally, at least to physical pain. You want to stay open to that emotionally. So when you're in physical pain, let yourself cry, and then allow yourself to also feel the fear you're in, and let yourself have your tears and sorrow about that as well. You definitely do not want to avoid your physical pain. Your physical pain is an expression of your body's symptom that the emotional pain is being suppressed. And if you then suppress your physical pain, that's when the disease happens. So the reality is you can be in physical pain for a long time without getting disease, as long as you stay open to your physical pain. You follow? But if you suppress emotional pain and physical pain, you are definitely going to get a disease, for sure. But there are some emotions that if you suppress that, you will also get a disease. So an example of that are the emotions that cause cancer. They're all about suppression of different types of pain and using addictive methods to get out of that pain. And the emotional pain I'm talking about. And that will always cause a disease. Yeah.
Wouldn't you say all disease?
Yeah, all disease. All disease. And the worst thing you can do is the purpose of the physical pain is to make you aware of the emotional one. Right? So by the time you've got a physical pain, you're already suppressing the emotional one. You follow? Yes. So the purpose of the physical pain is to allow you to go, okay, I obviously have some emotions I'm suppressing. Right? So to then suppress the physical pain and make out you don't have it at all, it's just going to exacerbate the problem, isn't it? It's going to make it worse. It's not going to make it better. Yeah. And nowadays, it's well known amongst the medical profession that often they medicate people up and they end up getting more and more and more and more problems, and they medicate them more and more and more. And so by the time a person's like in their 50s or 60s, oftentimes they're taking 15 pills and they've got to have a whole Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday thing, to keep it all in check. Like that's how much you could say almost they're literally grappling with the medication they're on in order to suppress different types of pains.
Does that include supplements as well?
Well, it depends on the, some supplements can be helpful. So for example, if you have a shortfall in your diet of, say, protein, then maybe a vegan protein powder of some kind as a supplement in your daily diet will help you. If you sometimes you will feel overly stimulated in terms of your emotional processing, and in the sense that you feel a bit depleted, and you might need to take some vitamin B, you know, and so that might help you. The problem with making supplements regular is that your body then adjusts its chemistry to actually compensate for the fact that it's getting that thing regularly outside of its normal sources. And so it actually produces less of it. So you know, and it's well known, I think, again, in the medical profession that this happens. And so, again, you've got to make sure, if you're going to supplement with things to help you, try to do it temporarily and not permanently. It's probably the answer to that question. Thank you. I am busting to do it. Yeah. It's already 4:30 too. Yeah, so we might have, shall we finish now? I think we need to finish now. My voice is going on. Anyway, guys, we'd just like to say, hopefully you enjoyed the 3. Well, can you enjoy talking about it, Sid? I think you can. Can you enjoy talking about it? My feeling is that you will come to enjoy it even if you haven't. And we've enjoyed meeting many of you for the first time as well, and getting to know some of you a bit.
And lovely to see people we've met before.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And we would definitely like to come back to Ireland at some point in the future. We find it a very generally gentle location, maybe aside from the
Even
they were fairly gentle, right? If we were in the US today, after Friday, we would have like 50 people trying to pass their door in the door and whatever. Yeah, so I think it was all pretty gentle. So we our travels from now on across Canada down to the USA. We haven't got time to share with you what we've been doing, but if you listen to the other presentations we've already done, you already hear the kinds of things we've been doing home and things like that we're trying to. Anyway, at some point, we'd like to set up at least in most continents. But it does require the development of individuals. It all gets back to sincere individuals making changes, getting rid of the spirit influence.
In warriors.
In warriors, yeah. And, that, of course, is going to be tricky, isn't it? You know that. Some of you have listened to Divine Truth for a while and you already know that. The others of you haven't listened to it as long. You at some point you will experience that. Initially you get a bit confident and maybe a bit arrogant, and then after a while you start realizing this is going to be a 15, like I said, to 30-year process that needs to be engaged with love and desire and passion. And as you do that, you'll be able to have your experiences with God's love as well, which is going to help a lot. And then in the process, you'll be able to get rid of some sin and you'll feel the growing happiness that comes as a result of that. So we'd like to remind you, even in your darkest times of dealing with things, dealing with your sin, that it's going to get better and it won't get worse.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Within those 15 or 30 years, everything you deal with makes your life better. Yeah. So the faster and the earlier you can deal with things, the better your life will be faster and earlier. So rather than thinking it's going to last forever, and there are times when you're in it that you think, it's going to last forever, that kind of thing. But that's never the case. There's been times when I've been feeling some tantrums for 2 months and then some emotion for another month, and during those times you can get feeling of like, it's going to be bad, but always better. And after a while you get so much confidence about that it's going to get better. So that improves your faith and that improves your desire to find another sin, and work your way through it, right? And happiness can be the result. But we've enjoyed ourselves sharing with you, even though we've been quite tired.
we're going to enjoy the next couple of days having rest. We did consider meeting up with the Irish, so, but we're aware that many of you are going back to your homes tomorrow too. So, yeah, and we can't do it tomorrow. We need one day off. Yeah, so yeah, if any of you are left over by Tuesday, Wednesday, we might consider it then. But it does depend on us getting enough rest for our next journey. Yeah.
If you're born in Ireland and you're going to be around on Tuesday, Wednesday, can you shoot me an email?
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I know promises, but we'll see how it
Can I say something? Did you say, I know you're not going to go into next year's plans, you shared it with the talks.
Yeah.
But next year you even mentioned you might come, you're going to do a UK trip. Would you possibly do at Ireland, or would people from Ireland have to come to the UK?
Well, they'll be able to come, like it's quite easy to get across the border, isn't it? But, you know, we are thinking that because we've been working together with Anna about maybe having a vehicle that we have all the equipment in. And this way we could actually hire the vehicle from Anna in England. And then we could do things like drive around England a bit and drive into Ireland a bit and also drive into Europe a bit, you know, down to Portugal. So, and then we could use the speakers that these people have kindly donated in every location, so we don't have to hire speakers anywhere, and all we need to do is get some accommodation. And we only need a flight here, and then probably still be around a flight here, and then a flight to Canada and the USA maybe. But all of the, like this time we've done, I think it's been 7 or 8 flights already, just in Europe type of thing, and that is chewed up about 16 of our days with all the travel. So we're wasting days, you know, we're wasting days. So our idea maybe next time is that if we got the vehicle, like most of the time around here and in England and everything, and in Europe, in Portugal, you can get somewhere in a few hours, you know, like for us that's like just a quick trip across the coast or whatever. And you know, that's really doable for us. And also it's a lot less taxing, because when you got flights, you've got to get there early, 3 hours. You know, you're losing a lot of time everywhere you go, losing a lot of sleep as well, generally, because we're arriving in some places late at night or having to leave early in the morning. And so this is our hope for the future, is that if we can hire a van, this is what we're trying to organise, and get all the gear together in the one van, and Mary and I just jump in the van and off we shoot. You know, we'll be able to visit a few places quite easily then. And we can have a different venue here, different venue there, that kind of thing.
So next year you might be able to come Ireland again.
Yeah, well, we're thinking. It depends a bit on you guys, really, as to whether you want us to come. But also, we know that some people, we're thinking about having quite a big venue in Portugal. We're looking at a 250-seater venue in Portugal at the moment. So it might turn out that that venue will help sort of next year let us do all of Europe almost, if we do a couple of events. And we're thinking of trying to find a similar sized venue in England. And if we do, we probably won't have to come to Ireland. But if the venues are smaller and we don't get the chance to, if there's too many people, then of course it makes more sense to have the extra trip.
Yeah. So no definitive answer.
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
I think it will start England. I'm all right with these guys.
Yeah. No, we'll let you know. It is relatively easy, isn't it, to get from Ireland to England? There seems to be. I suppose you still got to go through the customs, don't you?
Yeah.
Because of being in Euro.
Yeah.
Because of Brexit.
Not if you go to Scotland.
Oh, okay.
You know,
That's strange, isn't it? All the different rules. Yeah. Anyway, also for us it's going to be different next year. Apparently they're imposing new laws in Australia about us going to Europe as well, so we're not sure how that will affect us next year either. Apparently they're doing that in 2025. But our current plans are basically 4 to 6 weeks in England or Ireland, and 4 to 6 weeks Portugal. and having a big enough venue in the locations to have big meetings, and then also later, small little things we can have where we can just have chats around the fire or chats, like, even if it's a small venue, if it's raining outside, like a small venue like this where 20 or 30 can come and sit around and have a chat. Yeah. Because one of the things we're missing on this trip is we like to get to know you better, but also we understand that a lot of you, sometimes your questions can help a lot of people if we have more sort of intimate questions, right? So one of the things we're trying to sort of figure out is how do we look after ourselves while at the same time give those opportunities to more sincere people to just pop along and have a chat in a circle or something like that, or just even just go to a park or something and have a chat at a park, that kind of thing. It makes everything a bit more relaxed, and people feel a bit more open to talking then, and also we get to know you better, which is something that we miss with big groups. Because you think we've hardly gotten to know most of you yet, isn't it? Some of you we've seen a few times now, so we've got to know you better. But the ones that are just new, some of you we've not even really met yet. And this is something that, obviously Mary and I like meeting people. And so, we're trying to figure it out though. So we're thinking sort of the kind of philosophy at the moment that we have is we might do 2 sort of largish events, maybe a couple of days each, where we talk about a subject on day 1 and we do some mediumship and other work on day 2. And then the following weekend do a similar large event where we do mediumship talk about a subject on day 1 and some kind of other thing on day 2. And then have a break so that we can get some sleep and all those kind of things tidied up. And then be able to have some kind of informal things, that where we can just gather around and have a chat, have some dinner with people, that kind of thing. So we're looking for venues that are a bit more, we're looking for like a bigger venues that have space to fit more people, but we're also looking for some kind of venue that will let you have a meal there, or, where everybody comes and we have a meal and have a chat as well, without bothering other people too much, because sometimes we've done that. I remember in Greece we rocked up at one restaurant, 40 of us or something, and it turned out being another seminar really in the restaurant, and everybody else in the restaurant was listening to it as well. And it gets a bit like, there was another time in the US where we did that. We went to a Thai restaurant with a group of people, and it turned into a huge argument because we said some things that everybody in the US disagreed with, and they were just like really loud, all standing up, getting a bit, and everyone in the, it gets a bit hard for the other people there under those circumstances. So, no, that is still okay. And so, this is why we're thinking those kind of informal events are good, but it has to be in the right setting as well, not unloving to other people, things like that. So if you do have any of those settings, please let me know. Some pergola out in the backyard that's big enough to fit 20 people or something. Those kind of things handy. And if we can we are still thinking sometimes of bringing some gear, not the mixers, but the 2 receivers that we've got. We don't even need those. All we need is these little things that we've got in our belts, which are little square things, the ones on the bottom of the mics, and the microphones themselves, and we can record straight to these without any other equipment. So that means we can just have an informal chat, and yet it will still get recorded. So that way you'll be able to listen to it again. Yeah. So that's why we got the equipment we got as well, so that we can do things like that, have that flexibility. So you still hand around a mic, but aside from that, they'd be easy enough in a smaller setting. Yeah. So that's sort of our goal at the moment, and I say at the moment because Mary and I have been talking about it a fair bit, but we're still sort of working out or fleshing out where is it going to be, what kind of accommodation do we need. If we're thinking we might try to hire an accommodation where we can invite people that's big enough, got a big enough room where you can invite 30 people. And whether the accommodation will let us do that, and some don't, and some do. So at home, what we do is we've just got a little home, it's like half the size of this room. And yet, because it's got an open plan, it's not even half, it's quite a quarter the size of this room. And because it's got an open plan, we can actually squeeze 30 people in there and just have a chat. Yeah, because it's all sort of open all the way from lounge to kitchen and everything. So as long as you've got a big enough open area, you can fit sort of 20 or 30 people, have a great chat with it. Yeah. So that's what we're hoping to. We know in Europe that's hard because a lot of you in Europe have very small, like, spaces. You know, even if you have a big home, it seems there's a lot of small spaces in the big home. And so that makes it hard, obviously, to do that kind of thing. Yeah. But even if it was warm enough, like summer, shed, be fine. Obviously in the middle of winter, not going to be too good. You go to Sweden in the middle of winter and go in a shed, that's not too good. So obviously we've got to figure all that out, but that's the plan at the moment for our next visit to Europe.
And we are hoping to do it next year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're hoping to start at May next year. So that's we're thinking we will bring forward a bit from, you know how we started this one in July, and we're going to be home in November. We're thinking we'll bring it forward a bit so that it's more like May to sort of August or something like that. Yeah. August or September. Yeah. But we'll let you know. The way to keep in contact with it is, you want to write? Is Mary's blog, mary.divinetruth.com, will keep you informed about the sort of latest events. The way you will book them will be on event.divinetruth.com. And we are thinking of changing our event booking system.
We definitely are doing that.
Yeah, we definitely want to do that. So it may be a different site to the one we've used this year, but it'll still be accessed through that same link, event.divinetruth.com. And if you want to donate to the events, well, that's donate.divinetruth.com. And that will help us pay for the events. This year, about a third of it was paid by people in Australia. And to be honest with you, we're not that comfortable with our idea because it means that the people who we're visiting are not really paying for the events in the sense of demonstrating an interest enough to contribute. And so in future, we're probably going to wait until we get the appropriate donations. On this trip, we didn't wait and instead used some of our money. We used our money to buy all the equipment. And then when I say our money, I mean money that we had saved up to build a house, actually. That's what we used to buy the equipment. And then other people donated a third of the price of the trip. And so almost half of what all of our expenses were for this trip come from either ourselves or from people in Australia. We obviously can't sustain that, so you know we don't have that much money. Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. But the way things went here, we paid for all of the costs of here. And it went fairly similarly in England. In the second week, we paid for pretty much everything. The first week was not, we didn't pay for everything. In most of the places in Europe, we didn't pay for everything. Except for Portugal, we did pay for everything, but that's because almost everything was gifted to us. Yeah. So we had a house gifted to us, and we had a venue gifted to us, the car gifted to us, and so we paid for everything because there was enough to cover our food. So, so we did pay for everything, and it was enough to cover our food and our flight there. With donations. And so, but in Austria, we were very short there, and Belgium very short there. But well, obviously, what we need to do is at least get enough to cover the costs, because otherwise we can't keep doing it. But we feel pretty confident that that will happen. So, yeah. Ask.
How much money is it for your whole trip? So get kind of a
Well,
Sure.
it depends on what we do next year. It depends on the cost of the venues. This trip has been unusual because we had to pay for so many venues, and also those venues were in Brussels and in Austria were quite pricey as well.
I want to do a proper spreadsheet
So
actually.
we have to-
I want to do that when we
Yeah,
get home.
I
Like
added all up.
all
we
the
haven't
flights,
done it yet.
all the accommodation, all the, and itemise it all so everyone can get a sense. Cause
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because maybe I
The
haven't
flights
got
are
a clue.
about 30,000 to give you an idea.
Australian.
Australian.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was more.
No.
Yeah, it was more like 40 Australian by the time we finished with all the flights. Yeah, because of all the big ones we did and the extra baggage and all that stuff.
Yeah. I have to.
Yeah.
I want to do a spreadsheet. So we can.
Accommodation is really tricky because some accommodation is so pricey and then others. And so when we've gone cheaper accommodation, we've found it hasn't actually worked for us because it's sort of like half fridges everywhere. So that means we can't shop once. We have to shop like 3 or 4 times. In Portugal, we have to shop almost every second day. And that just chews up lots of our time. And when we've got a busy schedule, it's pretty hard. And but I think it depends where you go, but the average 2-week stay in most places where we've had to pay has been around 2,000 to 3,000 euro at this stage. In the US, it's even more than that. It's been more than that because San Diego, which we're not sure about next
I don't
time,
know if we go back
it's a
to
fairly
that.
pricey place to buy things. And so, and Brussels was very pricey. Like our venue alone there, just a 50-seater venue there was 3,000 euro. So we're trying to sort out where we can go. There is some things we've got our eye on in Porto, in Portugal, which would be like we can fit 250 people in there for 500 euro a day, which is the same price as what we pay here for 50 people. So when you've got that kind of event, sort of that means you've got far less costs. So the flights are 30 to 40 to get from us and back to Eltham. And then you've got things like car hire, which this trip we haven't done that. A lot of people have given us a car and some have driven us around, but it's been so exhausting because the person's driving around want to talk to you the entire time driving you around. And so you end up doing like, in some places I've ended up doing 5 or 6 hours presenting and then another 2 or 3 hours talking while someone's running us to shops and whatever else. And so it's very inconvenient for us. And so in the end, we feel now that we've got to hire a car. Obviously, if we do this van thing, it has the double effect of fitting all the gear in there as well, and we'll already have the car. So we can hire a van for like 2.5 months or 3 months, 2.5 months here in this region. We can get everywhere we want to go. And according to our informed person who does hire vans, we can get a van for about $300 pounds or pounds. So that's 600 Australian per week. So what's that in euros? That's like 450, is it?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, so about 500, let's say, a week for 7 or 8 weeks, or more like 10 weeks. So that's $5,000 for the hire. But it cost us to just get around Europe with flights $5,000. So in terms of car hires and stuff, if we get the right van, if we get a van in each location, we could actually do all of our hires for $5,000 US and $5,000 euro, 5,000 euro, which is a lot better than flying and then having to hire a car on top of that and all that jazz. So I reckon we're going to be able to get the next trip. Definitely, this trip costs us nearly 150 from what we estimated. The next trip would definitely, I reckon, if we can get the right gear in the right locations, should be under 100, and maybe lower. Maybe lower.
Because we don't have the outlay. This outlay of the equipment
This outlay
quite
is big.
significant. It's a third of our cost.
Yeah.
That, and we won't have to
Won't
repeat
have that.
Yeah.
So I reckon we're going to be able to get it sort of quite much lower, and that would be good. But we are going to try to upscale the size of where we stay so we can invite people. Because at the moment, wherever we've stayed, it's been too small to, you know, except in Portugal, we did invite some people right at the end in Portugal, but and we had room for 6 or 8 people, that's all. And obviously we'd like it to be, if we're going to invite people, we prefer it to be like 20 or 30. Yeah. So it's a bit hard to find houses that are that big, particularly we've seen in Europe. It seems you've got to pay for a mansion to get a room that big. In Australia, like our house, you know, you can hire it for $300 a week and get a room that big. So you're sort of not so used to your prices either. We wonder sometimes how you guys like are going surviving. It must be quite difficult at times. The price of your food here, it's been quite good, but in England and in Europe,
In England and Belgium.
like double to 4 times what we're paying at home.
For our same
in groceries, yeah, for groceries. So we wonder how people are doing it here. Must be doing it pretty tough. Yeah. Since COVID, I suppose, too, huh? Yeah, so obviously we want to try to reduce the cost as much as we can so that the burden on people donating is not so great. But that's our goal. Yeah, I think that's probably all we need to say though.
Just thank you.
We encourage you to look after yourselves
Yes.
and love yourselves as well as love others.
Thank you.
I just want to say that Mary and I need to go through this whole pack-up regime, so we're not going to be able to talk to you after the event. There's this whole, if we don't do it right the next time, it's all very hard to keep track of everything. So we'll have to do that. There'll be a team helping us with just packing up speakers and stuff like that.
If you could help us by just making sure you've got all your personal possessions.
Yes.
What about chairs? Can we have?
I think,
Many does not.
yeah, the venue will do that. So I think in this case we'll leave the chairs. They're not stackable anyhow. So we'll leave the chairs, but there is other things that the helpers will do. Anna, you would like to ask?
2 points.
2
One
points.
is if anyone wants to go for a Thai dinner afterwards, we're thinking of having like a little group meal. Could you let Marie know your name and we'll gather a list and make a reservation? It would be at the Lemongrass Thai in town. Is that okay, Marie? Because I'm going to be doing that. Thank you. And then kind of pack time soon, just see me after.
Have down team, see you after, and if you're interested in lemongrass Thai for the evening, see Marie.
All right.
Mary and I are too exhausted to go.
Yeah.
So,
Like, can we please just take a moment to thank again, Marie?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you. And we'll thank the guys for flying the speakers and doing the pack-up too. So we'll hopefully see you another time.
Yeah.